This is Politricking
On record, Tshidi.
with Tshidi Madia on EWN.
Welcome to Politricking with myself, Tshidi Madia. This is season 6, episode 1 of a politics podcast brought to you by Eyewitness News. So my guest today, my first guest, is somebody I feel like I've been hounding him. I've been begging him, like trying to get like a day, an hour, a minute of his time. I finally have it. I'm joined in studio by the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. Do you realize the last time you and I actually had a conversation like this was in the old Prime Media building of Gwen Lane when you're still hoping to become the Secretary General of the ANC? That's how much you avoid me.
No, I don't avoid you. Thank you, Tshidi, and all the listeners and followers and fans of this Politricking show. Indeed, when I came to declare to you that I will be SG, you didn't believe me. That was in that period. So thank you for having us once more.
Yeah, I'm sick, so please mind my voice, but it was an important conversation I felt we needed to have. Let's speak about what it's been like for you. Because I look, and I want to go back because you are headed towards a midterm review anyway. I look back and I think, geez, it was a baptism of fire. The amount of work that needed to be done, elections in mind, the quality of structures of the ANC in mind. And I think there's still question marks about whether or not you've gotten that right. But you really didn't hear it. What almost felt like a hollow secretariat. Just reflecting back on what it's been like for you.
Tshidi, I mean, as you know, the ANC didn't have a secretariat for a period of 5 years. The Secretary General was dismissed. The former DSG was, passed away. May his soul rest in peace. And the programs of the organization in terms of the engine were hollowed out, and as a result, were firefighting towards a conference in Nazareth, which was highly contested. And then we came in and we had very little time to do anything to focus the organization on the task of building, which we only get it now. We had to focus on elections, literally, running into action to fight a difficult election campaign, which produced what it produced for the ANC, which is 40%.
You're also the SG who has to help the ANC navigate that result, navigate what it means to lose power at the level that you have, and also having parties that you're working with, like the DA saying, yeah, now you must learn what power sharing means. We'll speak about the budget debacle, but the sentiment there is this is a moment of reckoning. You've been pretending almost that you've managed to jipper the system and to enjoy power without actually having that electoral support. You are still the secretariat at the heart of that.
To us, we are very clear. It's a setback, which have given this result, where in which people give their own interpretation. When everybody was perplexed to accept the outcome and basically set the tone in terms of what must actually happen. The 100 days of GNU was to give an account and to basically celebrate the fact that what has been an idea has now come into full fruition and has survived 100 days of its existence. So it's not been tone deaf. If you listen to the content and the statement of the president, was actually very clear and talking to the members of the party, which largely were the party diehards, which we didn't talk to after the elections because there was no victory speech because we didn't register overwhelming majority. So the 100 days was a full account of what is happening in government, where others were confused. And at the same time, it was a first public account of what this GNU came to represent to the masses of our people. And we felt that in the 100 days, it was important to do so. you can't characterize that as tone deaf when in itself was a voluminous with all facets and ingredients into it of telling a story of the 100 days of GNU in the ANC way and the ANC style.
I don't know, Bucks. It's hard between the balloons and the music to hear what the president's message is. And that's where a lot of us outsiders are like, but is the ANC understanding the moment? So you're saying it's not being tone deaf. What are we missing about the ANC's reflections on its performance? Help me understand what the ANC sees. Because honestly, particularly when you speak about that particular event, I can't see what you're saying. I can't hear what you're saying. What are we missing?
I don't want to define an event because an event in itself was properly characterized.
Okay.
And it came to represent what it was about, 100 days of the GNU. And in itself, it was carried through the message and the message of talking to the people. There's no difference between 100 days and the celebrations of the ANC 113th year of celebration. And at the same time, you can equally say this event and these events should not be the same. It's a mass event in itself, where in which you talk to your constituency directly and rather interrogate the content of that particular speech in terms of what was being said, which was followed by people of South Africa across the length and breadth of South Africa. And I think the response people understood, and that is why they pledge their support to the ANC leading the government of national unity going forward. And that is what was being espoused in the form of a speech by the president.
Looking at some of the hurdles in the GNU, including obviously the budget, some of the public spats around foreign policy and the likes, it wasn't premature to celebrate reaching 100 days. Wouldn't it have been ideal to wait for a longer period to see what it withstands?
What has come to define the engagement in the context of the GNU is not an accident, is what is to be expected. And remember, Tshidi, we've had many choices on the table, and some of those still remain going forward. And we have said that we're committed to the GNU, but it's not an end in itself. So when you have not won power outrightly, you look at options. And we have chosen an option of a GNU for what we said was about national interest and South Africans. And that's why we invited everybody to come on board and to participate. And that's what it is. So otherwise, we can go for a grand coalition with 2 or 3 parties. We can go for a minority government. What we cannot be, which is not allowed in terms of the system of government, is to become an opposition with 40%. We'll become the largest majority.
Yeah,
so we cannot also go back to the elections because that deadline after 14 days have actually passed. So we're in the GNU, we're committed to it. And then what we understand about the GNU is that we've got a mandate to serve, working with others, of course.
I'll come back to, because the GNU is such a long conversation, we'll come back to the budget. I want to speak about the other issue that you've had to wade through as SG is what is perceived to be the implosion of the alliance. I know there was a bilateral, excuse me, I know there was a bilateral with the party and the ANC. We've seen all of us when they went to Congress last year where they said they want to go at it alone. There seems to be a different perception, even from ANC leaders, about what is ideal, where Paul Mashatile seems to note, the deputy president of the ANC, seems to note the decision and to almost respect the pathway. But you also have the president of the ANC saying that will actually kill us if we do that. If you part ways with us, we'll then lose completely as far as state power is concerned. How are the conversations going? And is it fair, because you've been using the word characterize a lot, to characterize what's happening as an implosion?
It is not an implosion. It may be a point which was talked about at some point by one unknown writer, which he talked about this movement as under a topic, unmandated reflections, that it could happen at some point that the alliance can't hold together and for different reasons can actually not implode but go separate ways. Because you deal with a very, very important process in terms of the alliance. You deal with a political vanguard of the working class, which have actually chosen not to contest power but participate in the contestation of power through the political liberation movement of the African National Congress. So why? Because it respected the notion of the National Democratic Revolution. As much as it is pursuing a socialist agenda which will lead to a communist state, it means it can evolve out of a process of the National Democratic Revolution. And if at some point that party have arrived that we can go it alone in this particular instance, that will be determined by the circumstances and the conditions, whether that is permissible. It could actually happen. Now, that will not be implosion. It will be what the moment will have defined that let's go it alone, which in itself will be observed. In this particular instance, as the ANC, we don't believe that the moment to separate and contest in different ways has actually arrived. That is now the ANC. Nonetheless, we are in a process of engagement, talking about all these challenges between us and the Communist Party as the political formations in the tripartite alliance.
Is there a possibility that the ANC could convince the party to not try to also appear on the ballot alongside the ANC, but to continue to support an ANC ticket?
We can't really arrive at that conclusion at the present moment because the party has got a firm decision on the matter. At the present moment, the ANC is engaging with the Communist Party decision to contest the elections on its own.
How difficult is the ANC's current position now with regards to its relationship with its alliance partners, sister organizations across the globe in the geopolitical space, considering the kind of tensions that are happening and the push and pull against some of the alliances and some of the decisions that we've taken? How tough, how difficult is it navigating those waters and trying to remain at your core and in step with those who you're aligned to traditionally when you see Western powers pushing the way that they are?
You see, there is always a thin line between the state and within the state government and then the party, and the party being the dominant party and the governing party. And then how this plays it out in the geopolitical space is very important. The ANC is a national liberation movement guided by certain principles, ethos, and ideology. Okay? And then we happen to be in government where we lead society in general, meaning those who voted for us and those who did not vote for the African National Congress, who subscribe to the belief of South Africa, who subscribe to the belief of unity in diversity in South Africa. So as a responsible party, yes, you've got party interest, but you govern South Africa. So what comes first? It is South Africa. But that does not diminish the ANC as a liberation movement. Our relationship, not even our relationship, our attitude to Donald Trump administration will be different from how our government and state will relate to Donald Trump, because we are tied to America as a state in terms of trade relations.
Yeah.
We are tied to America in terms of bilateral agreements in terms of what happens to this country that will affect America, what happened in America that will, in terms of law of the two countries and so on. We are tied to that as a country. But how a particular party and an administration behaves towards our state, it is the responsibility of the state to evaluate from time to time, to transact from this, from what I characterize as this important engagement with this particular administration. So to us, we understand perfectly that government and the people of South Africa come first. And then we as the party, we will be second. But in itself, we are not, diminishing what is our attitude toward a particular state. And in this instance, towards the administration of the United States. And it is important that must be understood.
You have GNU partners in the DA who feel completely otherwise, who feel the influence of the party on the state is problematic, who feel that they are left out of the greater conversation as far as foreign policy is concerned, that their influence, their allies, their perspective is completely shut out the door because the ANC's intent on the state modeling what has always been before GNU came into existence.
The DA, like other political parties, is a non-state actor. In this particular instance, is a non-state actor. And then they may have a foreign policy, but states only respect what we call other state actors. The DA is a non-state actor. They may have a foreign policy, but states relate to other state actors. And that dichotomy must be respected. That Helen Zille can have her own view about what must happen in the world. It is not a state disposition. She's not in power. She's not leading government, foreign policy in this particular instance.
Fair enough.
So no, let me explain that particular point, which must be understood. In this particular instance, the president and his executive are state actors, and they've got the responsibility to restore relations among states for the benefit of all South Africans. For the benefit of all South Africans, not only ANC. If it was to be ANC and selfish like it has been distorted by Helen, it will mean something else. Because the fact of the matter, our foreign policy is embedded on the principle of human solidarity and justice. And it is informed by our own history. Our foreign policy is embedded on the principle of multilateralism. Mm-hmm. Okay? We don't act outside the United Nations and the African Union and SADC. We don't act on our own, we act with others. We are not a superpower. We are advocating for multiple polarization of the world where nations work together and there's no big brother.
I hear all of that.
So I'm saying that is your foreign policy, which informs our state interaction with other states. What will the ANC be in that, which is a non-state actor? It will mean that the ANC will say America under Donald Trump is on steroids on aggression of other states. Before we name a school in South Africa, we must report to America. We are reduced to a colony in a very short space of time. We are actually being bullied. And that is why we say our state must safeguard our interest, work with America, normalize relations if there's anything that is there, but at the same time, do not lead us to bullyism. of the United States. We support the South African state government led by the president when it espouses in the state of the nation. We will not be bullied.
The other thing, you speak about what the rules are, and diplomacy and decorum are fantastic, but it's also obvious that those are out the window when you're dealing with the United States. Because if that wasn't the case, then they wouldn't have indulged the disinformation by AfriForum. If that wasn't the case, the DA wouldn't go on a tangent on its own to the US. If those doors weren't open for that, that needs to be managed. That wouldn't be happening. I don't know if I'm not making any sense.
I am saying to you, as much as anyone in the United States can open doors, even against the majority of this nation, we remain solid as South Africa in relation to what is in the best interest of our nation.
Okay.
That is why we are unmoved by the wayward behavior, in a lack of better words, of AfriForum and to a certain extent the Democratic Alliance. Democratic Alliance need a whole new lecture about patriotism, which they don't understand in a particular way. They don't, because they must understand that we don't have two passports. We only have one, which is South Africa, and will defend our great nation. So if the DA want to argue, I was speaking to the Minister of DERCO yesterday, and I say, informally I say, Minister, you need to engage with the DA as a party to understand what is their issue. That they think that in the foreign policy it is not representative of them and that the South African government is off tangent. What is it? What is it that Helen Zille is all and about? Is hiding. I respect AfriForum. Racist and distorting what is happening in the country, bad-mouthing the country. What is DA about? The DA said when the tough gets going in Gaza, I'm taking an example, that no, we are for a solution for both parties. We don't take a side, okay? And then we said, yes, ceasefire and everything else. We are for a two-state solution, but you can't handle people who are stateless as equal to a state, which Donald Trump recently said that he wants to turn that into a resort. A resort. I mean, that shows how you deal with other people. Now, if you believe in justice, like all of us in this country, we came to be who we are as South Africa from fighting against apartheid and what the Palestinian people are subjected to. There's no way in this country that the ANC, under the stewardship of the African National Congress, can forget easily that we're there where the Palestinians are. You can disagree, which we have said in our statement. We disagree with the kidnapping of people in Gaza. There must be ceasefire. Let's come around the table and talk. Everything about Palestine stopped at St. David with Bill Clinton. Even Barack Obama did not make an attempt and all of that. This one is worse. Donald Trump. He is worse in many fronts. So the point is, when it comes to the foreign policy and at the same time what must happen in the Palestinian territory. So I'm saying, Tshidi, the DA must state and they must go to the minister. They serve with him in government. And then they are in parliament. We are here. Let them state to us what is it that they feel in our foreign policy is off tangent and is misrepresented by a minister of the African National Congress globally.
While we're on the DA, the renaming of Santon Drive, where the U.S. consulate is based, there is a back and forth, renaming it to Leila Khalid. The DA feels this is antagonistic, that this is trying to rile up the Americans. Just your quick reaction to that. I think
The
that process
naming,
now.
the renaming of streets and all of that is always in terms of local government subject to the will of the people. This this Johannesburg is governed through a coalition, so let the people speak about the renaming of the streets, just like Winnie Mandela. There are people who disagreed with that. So the point is, if they disagree with that, let the people speak about the renaming of the streets, and that's where we are as the ANC.
Yeah.
We have made suggestions ourselves. We have supported names ourselves that were not raised by us. We have raised names. Some have been rejected in Pretoria. Some have been accepted. So this has happened. Even in Cape Town where they govern, they know the naming of streets. What happens? Why should it be a subject today? Skoon Pampir, Baitlotlora, and all of that, but not on their own. They are just saying we are perfect on our own. This South Africa, when it's convenient, is ours. When it is not, it belongs to the ANC alone. We belong to South Africa and will defend South Africa and will defend the principles that have defined what humanity should be about. And we will never abandon people who are in dire straits in terms of fighting for freedom anywhere else in the world.
Okay. I want to try and move on from those things because I feel like the clock is getting away from me. Let's speak about the budget. There's an impasse at the moment. The DA has sent the ANC a list of demands. The ANC has also said it can go to other people. It can knock on other doors. The EFF is kind of waiting in the wings. Your thoughts now on what is the best way forward? And if the GNU stays intact beyond this moment, would it stay intact because the ANC has come to the party and acceded to what the DA wants? Or does it move forward because the DA will just have to accept that the budget is as it is?
Let's talk about what is the issue about the budget. From what we understand is that we are talking to all political parties as we speak right now, as the ANC in parliament. And then we have not arrived at a conclusion where we say, because that's not our style, that we put barriers and we make conclusions before we talk to people. We are engaging with parties in a robust manner. We must first accept, Tshidi, before I address what probably is the point. Maybe you need a panel on this of political parties before the budget is concluded in parliament so that people can come and state what is the issue. And I don't want to second guess or interpret what they are talking about. And then we will also put our best foot forward to come and argue what is the issue and what we believe should actually happen. It has never happened in South Africa that the budget becomes a point of debate. Treasury meets, MinCombat, budget policy committees. They present the budget to cabinet and then it goes to parliament and then it's passed. Okay? Now, because the ANC has lost power, not outrightly, but it has lost power to 40%, everybody believes that everything must be contested. Now, there's a problem in the budget. Our spending is not being mitigated by the revenue that we actually have. So how do we address the missing gap? There are many options on the table. There are others who are arguing in the public domain, wealth tax, corporate tax, and then income tax and all of that. We were opposed as the ANC totally to VAT. And then everything else is reworked. It comes to 0.5%. We say we can work with this because it's not permanent. It is phased in. And depending on the performance of the economy, because this budget is about jobs and growth, then this will be done away with over time. So the aim is not for it to rise to any other level beyond where it is at the present moment. And then when the balance has come to fruition everything will come to normal. So people put options on the table. What I understand the DA is saying is say, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. Don't tax anybody. Don't raise any taxes.
Don't cut anything, yeah.
Yeah. No, they don't say don't cut. They say you can cut and then and also ensure a revolution in terms of that there are no rollovers, and then you intensify your collection. We say, yes, you can. Let's agree to this spending review committee. They want to chair it. We say the president, they've already spoken about that. You'll be party to it. Your deputy minister of finance can be party to that. Then we are going to deal with this question of spending. They say you like spending, as the ANC. We say we too have come to terms with the fact that this spending thing require review is very much important and fundamental to what we want to do. Then what do they do? In the middle of that, they raise policy issues that they were defeated about in the sixth administration, NHI, Bella Act, Expropriation Act. They want to bring it into the budget as a precondition. They use the VAT. We say the VAT is mitigated, that the essential goods are zero rated.
Zero rated, yeah.
And then that is actually explained. And then we are now confused as to where do we stand. Now, everyone else talks about no to VAT, but no alternative. But ngesixhosa andazi isitoli kwakuthiwani abantu bazingela bephethikiwe, meaning they are chasing something but they've got an agenda. They understand the situation we are in, but they don't say how to get out of this. And then they come with long-term solutions that we must implement in terms of the SCR, which they themselves can actually participate. Others will not be in a position to participate because they are outside government. But those who are in government, we can find each other in that particular regard. So the DA, as I conclude, they have made over commitment on things that they know sometimes are not possible, that they can achieve. And they want to blame it on us that we want to act like as if we're in power when we are not, which is not the case. They are disingenuous. They are totally disingenuous in this particular regard. We have chosen South Africa. We have not chosen the DA. We have not chosen any other political party. Others have walked away and have said that we are selling out by accepting to work with the DA. We went beyond the call of duty to work with everyone for the best interest of South Africa. We are not chasing the DA away. They know they are asking the impossible. And that is why we said, in our negotiations, even on the path towards the statement of intent, they should have said in the statement of intent, you will not sign things that we disagreed with in the sixth administration. Going forward, we would have stated to them that no, we don't agree to that. Our doors were not fixated to the DA and others only. They were open to everybody. If the DA did not want to participate in the GNU, they would have pushed us to other options. But we chose the first one, which is GNU, and we are very committed to making it work. And that's where we are.
I do think that the DA, from that very first formation, really, of that statement of intent, they blundered in how they negotiated. They should have actually put the terms on the table before helping to elect a president. I think that was a mishap on their part. But anyway, they are clear that the agenda is, there is an agenda through all of this. They're clear in that they're saying that they want to feel that they also make decisions. Their agenda is they feel overlooked by the ANC. They're very clear that this is a purely political move. Can they save face? And if they can't, what is the impact then on a GNU?
Last term, when the minister talked in the medium-term budget statement, they were over the moon that this belonged to us, this belonged to us. They have just been behaving like drum majorettes. And then they then said that we will catch them with the budget. And John Steenhuisen make a statement that the budget is rejected by the majority of political parties. The ANC can no longer govern and govern alone. Does he understand what he's talking about? Does he understand? He doesn't. It doesn't. The ANC never chose DA over others. It chose South Africa. And that is why we respect them. But if they think that the ANC is a pushover, we didn't win elections. We have never claimed to win elections. We won elections. That is why I was saying to you, 100 days to us was not a celebration, was a moment of reflection. They did not read what President Ramaphosa said in that 100 days at Luthuli House. They didn't understand that. Maybe they were confused by Maporisa and Amapiano. But the fact of the matter is that the statement was clear, is that this is what we will work to pursue in this GNU. What is it that will work to pursue? Redress, which is in the statement of intent.
Yes.
We will deepen transformation. We have never beaten around the bush about that. The problem is that they behave like drama majorettes. They are quick to claim easy victories, even things that they don't know their own origins. In the departments where they have deployed themselves in the GNU, where they are working with the president, they have said things that have got nothing to do with them, belong to them. We have respected that. We are not kowtowing the DA. We are doing what we know we have to do for South Africa. So the point is this, Tshidi, is this. We are serving South Africa here. And if you want to punch above the weight and you want to come to percentages, then you've got an option to walk. You can't stay in something that you think doesn't serve you. It will never serve you. Go and analyze and look at it. The ANC does not want to do away with the DA in the GNU. Likewise with anyone else. We want to work with everybody. But if you come with your attitude of overcommitting and punching above your weight and knowing certain things you can't achieve, that's your problem.
Do you see them getting over this hurdle around the budget? Do you see this, us going through this and then the DA remaining in the GNU? Because I can't imagine a party that does not in the end support the budget then implementing its plans. It makes no sense in my head.
It will depend what the discussions will produce in terms of as we talk to them and as we get to that point. The budget must be passed. Bills must be paid. South Africa must run. And then we must see what will then happen when they work very hard, not the budget to be passed. You will not achieve everything else. Look, we are in municipalities where the DA was governing and they passed budget irrespective of whether we agreed with them or not. And they were not in coalition with us. They simply ran roughshod over us. And then they passed budget in Joburg, they passed a budget in Pretoria, they passed a budget in Port Elizabeth. They passed budget every day in Cape Town. So the point is this. With our 6 million, they will never run roughshod over us. And the fact of the matter is that if they look deep in that budget, they are accommodated.
Yeah, I do think
and
so.
And then they are. And then they want to hold us at ransom because of political, win. They want that. No, we managed to stop the ANC. We have already been stopped. We've got 40%. We don't govern alone. But even ourselves, we are not a walkover. So we don't talk to people with a cap in the hand like we're hopeless. We are not hopeless. We are not hopeless. We will fight for what belongs to us and to our people, at the same time respecting others.
Okay.
We respect South Africa, and that is what is important.
Okay, I don't have a lot of time, and I really want to get through other things. There's an NGC. The midterm review is due sometime this year. What do you want to see the ANC come out of that with?
The General Council is midterm review. We give an account in a 2.5 years. What have we achieved? 2 years, 6 months, halfway mark. But also set the tone about what must happen for the national conference in terms of policies and all of that, and the strategy and tactics of the ANC. How are we fighting this revolution with this setback, with coalitions? And then can we come back and what do we need to do to consolidate to come back. And that's what the General Council is and should be about. And in terms of the ANC constitution, the General Council is not a meeting point of branches. It's a meeting point of structures to review the midterm of the ANC. And the criteria of who attend is determined by the Secretary General, working with other secretaries and presenting a formula to the National Executive Committee. And the National Executive Committee will adopt, augment the formula, and then it will become an NEC formula to invite people to the NGC. So we're looking at this NGC, which next week NEC will finalize the content of the NGC. We're looking at this NGC as a big political school, like in 1996. It's a moment of reflection. It's a political school. We have done a lot of things in a very short space of time, including losing our majority in a big way. So that is what this NGC is going to be reflecting on.
How important is it for this NGC to whatever comes out of this NGC? How important is it to the path ahead for us as outsiders? What determines whether the ANC can survive 2026 local government elections is how it manages the NGC. We've often in the past seen them being hijacked by factional issues. How important is it to safeguard the moment?
We will ensure that it doesn't get hijacked by factional issues. That is why those burning platforms that entrench factional views have been dealt with one by one, and we are focusing the organization on building. And you could see with our interventions and the work we have begun in Gauteng, as well as in KwaZulu-Natal, and also in other provinces of rebuilding, our membership has been receptive and behaving in a particular way, if we have come to see it. And of course, there are splinters there and there of anarchy, but they are not voluminous as they used to be. It's because everybody in the movement and the ANC now begin to understand that this question about frail issues like leadership, who leads, they're simple. Our membership now begin to appreciate the fact that this moment we're in is bigger than who leads. This moment we're in is bigger than self-interest of individuals. And you can see that in action. And how renewal is being embraced. In many fronts, you no longer see that anarchy when an ANC person is arrested, their T-shirts around the courts and all of that. All of that have diminished, isn't it? Within a second or minutes, as you can say, and days, it has just disappeared, And then, yes, there are elements who still do not understand the moment, but over and above, acting outside the discipline of the organization, we've got to rain hard on those in terms of the party because we've got a mandate. We can't prevaricate on that. Any self-respecting party does not allow discipline become secondary in terms of its existence, more especially a party like us that is facing existential crisis.
Is it ideal for the ANC to have a contestation in 2027? Should the ANC not reach an agreement that actually that's the most dangerous thing? That if anything that is as fierce as the previous contests have been, it will actually destroy the organization. Should there not be a conversation that says, let's have an agreed upon leadership to take the party forward?
There will be a conversation. It's just that anarchists and people who don't work for this ANC are overzealous. They don't want to listen. And we will discipline them. There will be a conversation in the party about the future of this organization in terms of leadership. There's no idea that will be fushed, that will be suppressed. There will be a discussion, including whether or not contestation is ideal, whether or not there should be contestation. If there has to be contestation, what informs that contestation? And it could well be majority of us in the party don't want contestation. We're tired. We want to move forward. And that is why the path to unity begins today. With discipline, focus on the task at hand. Look around and see that the ANC is facing existential crisis, and stop fighting over frails, things that will resolve. If you prioritize who becomes a leader today, and Tshidi, you in the media, if you want to take ANC off the rails, start to talk about names. Who must be the next leader and all of that. ANC members love that. Because the level of political education of these members to understand that we are now being taken off rails is very limited. And that is why we have introduced foundational course. Our political education is on steroids as we speak right now. And we will see the results over a period of time. But at the present moment, we focus in the organization on what needs to be done, and we hope for a good result in the long term.
All of that you just said suggests to me that, all things considered, you're actually not ready for a contestation in 2027.
Contestation in the party can happen, Tshidi. All right? You have asked a question which I've answered.
Okay.
I don't know whether eloquently or you
Clearly
think
not.
I'm
That's why I'm
avoiding.
coming back.
You will say it's clearly because you want me to go to something else.
No,
and I'm very
no.
no. I'm very clear, and I'm saying to you, listen, that discussion is coming.
I take it.
That discussion is coming, and the members of the ANC will be properly guided, and they themselves will think out of the box about that matter.
Okay.
It is coming. That is why we say, hold on the horses. There's no need to run ahead.
Why can't you divorce your name from the murmurs, the conversation? The one thing that constantly happens, no matter what decisions you take as the secretary of the organization, it almost trickles down to succession, ambitions. Hey, what? People continuously tie your name to unfettered, actually, ambition to try and lead the organization, to be president. Why do you think that can't be divorced from you?
As a leader and somebody who grows in the party, when people speak about you, it depends how you interpret that as an individual, as a cadre of the movement. I'm part of a collective, and at the same time, I need to navigate through these moments, understanding that at the moment, as these matters are being handled, I am at a very important and central and responsible position to drive a particular position for the African National Congress. And from where I'm seated, the ANC does not need that discussion. And that is why we have agreed that that discussion will come. And my responsibility is to ensure as the SG, that decision is respected. And I must not be dissuaded because somebody somewhere is whispering to me that you must be this and that. You don't know how I feel, what I think politically. One thing for sure about me, I can think for myself. And I respect the organization. And I know for a fact that if in the organization we all think in a particular way, in the interest of building our movement, which is facing existential crisis, I will be part and parcel of those who drive that perspective. And members of the organization have got to understand that. The problem comes when you become power drunk, because people talk about you and then you leave things to go loose. And then say, no, but SG, we want you. Leave us to talk about this. Leave us to do things. Let us entrench factionalism in your name. You do that, you will face the consequences. And that is why all the time we speak and we address members of the organization that, comrades, let's focus. And I know there's a coterie of a few who want to divert us to this path. And there are some even in leadership who easily get tempted to go in a different way. And we are saying to them, don't get tempted. We know that we run a big organization. We don't control discussions of people informally, but about what they think about leadership and all of that. But don't bring it here and make it the business of our party. We will not allow it. Because the ANC now, when the moment comes, 2 years, 3 years from now, this matter will be open for everybody to partake and say what they think. Let's first cross 2026, and thereafter you will have a festival of ideas about what must happen to the future of the party.
The NWC has been visiting provinces, trying to assess what's going on. I was looking at the number of branches not in good standing in the Free State. I listened to your media briefing, but my sense from party members who are in the room is what you have is you're listening to one faction countered by another. This back and forth ping pong about who's left out of the trough, and the focus, which you spoke of earlier, being serving South Africa and the people, often falls to the wayside. I've heard the same thing about discussions in KZN, the same thing about discussions in Gauteng, that very much, and I asked you earlier, has the ANC actually realized what's happened? And so when you listen to that quality of thinking and debate amongst the members, sometimes you're like, do they understand? Panyaza Lesufi came here post-elections, and I thought it was really quite sober, to be honest. We said we had 40%. I listened to you, and I think you say it, but I'm not sure if it's being heard. Your sense, though, of that understanding, and why closed meetings are still about crumbs and fighting each other as opposed to the bigger picture. You're about to lose metros. You've lost metros.
That is why I was shocked when you say we have lost metros.
You've lost them. Actually,
we have
gone.
not.
You're holding on to them via weird coalitions.
Yes,
but
no. We have lost metros twice, actually. We have lost metros
you've never
twice.
regained power.
Yeah, no, we have lost them twice, and that is what is key for us. That's why, Tshidi, I can assure you and everyone else that the bickering of the ANC in the public discourse, it's over. Anyone who does that in the name of the ANC, he will face the full wrath of the ANC discipline. The focus of the ANC now is to ensure how do we deal with the existential crisis we're facing. I cannot put it better. It will only be the ANC that will avoid the downward spiral by way of its conduct and how it deals with internal issues. And that is why we have taken out internal issues from the public domain into the closed doors and been very hard with our structures where they are veering away in terms of unity and working for the party. Those who are doing so, we come hard, and that's what is happening.
What must happen in the metros? Ekurhuleni seems to be in a tailspin at the moment. ANC and Action SA did not agree on the adjustment budget. It looks on paper that it's 20. That seems to be functional. But the DA wants you to reverse what's happened there. What's the latest there?
Well, it's not possible to reverse. The situation in the metros is very fluid. So that's why when the deputy president convened the coalition's discussion, small political parties were against us. When we said that the first time we mooted the idea of a grand coalition, and they said, no, that is undemocratic. As long as coalitions in the metros, in the municipalities, are informed and are governed by people with less numbers, we will continue to be in a state of turmoil. And our coalition document, Strategic Perspective of the ANC, says so. Our submission to the forum that was convened by the Deputy President, well recorded, I articulated the position of the ANC very clearly. Because, Tshidi, if the DA and the ANC are not going to work together in the metros and with other parties that follow the ANC, or the ANC work with the EFF where we feel we are a majority and not exclude these bigger parties and share the spoils because that is a reflection of the will of the people, there will be no stability, Tshidi. No stability. No ideology or anything of that sort is going to bring about stability in the metros. Because when we govern both, we will have a better understanding that when we come to the budget, we must service our constituencies. That in itself means servicing our people. But as it stands now, a man with one political party, 1%, not one political, 1% becomes the mayor of a city.
You're part and parcel of it. I remember seeing you tweet.
So what should
that was
we-
before coalition, but you're part and parcel of that
Yes,
picture.
it has become, I'm saying to you, it has become numbers. You are not talking what is the will of the people. So that is why we said, let's have a legislation that must inform the governing of municipalities in terms of the coalition arrangement. At national level, it is very clear. If the ANC, all these parties had the numbers that they have, they would have deposed the ANC at national. But we are here where we are. Even if any one of the parties walk away, GNU won't fall. You get what I mean?
No, I do think that.
Yes,
actually.
so the
That's what I do
problem
see.
here is that we are facing a situation we are facing in the municipalities because there is no set of principles that inform these coalitions. It's a question of what numbers we can amass, and then that is it, and then we govern.
When's the ANC intervening in Joburg in terms of the leadership there?
What do you mean in terms of leadership?
Is the ANC satisfied with its Johannesburg leadership that is deployed to government?
The ANC does not govern Johannesburg alone, it governs with others. And if you want to zoom on the ANC leadership alone, I think you are being unfair because that's a coalition in terms of governing Johannesburg. And
okay.
of course, the only thing the ANC has got there, among others, is the mayorship.
And that's where the buck
MMCs.
stops.
No,
That's where the buck stops.
it doesn't stop.
It doesn't
there.
matter if it's a coalition.
No,
the
it
buck
doesn't.
stops there. That's a
No,
responsibility.
it doesn't stop there. It stopped with the entire council.
Okay. People think that I'm attacking Dada Morera, but you see the state of Johannesburg, little houses in the Joburg CBD. That's all I'm saying. But I take that. I am almost done, but there's just a few things that I need to get out of the way. Zoila Masilela, watching that play itself out in Parliament, listening to Colin Malachi defend him, what does that communicate about the way ANC views its leaders? How should people read that moment? How should people read that interaction in the defense of somebody like Zoelo and whatever the EFF supposedly exposed in that regard about where he was working, what qualifications he had? I know that they've lodged some complaints.
Look, that matter is subjected to the Integrity Commission because if the Youth League put somebody forward, it must be somebody with impeccable credentials. To an extent that the claims that are made against Zwelo are holding water, it's a subject of investigation. The EFF have put their complaints to the public protector, and that is investigated. But in this particular instance, should there be any mischief on the part of the candidate who happen to have credentials of the leader of the ANC Youth League, steps will be taken. That matter is going to the Integrity Commission. It will be investigated fully. An account will have to be given because some of the things that have been said, and I want to give Comrade Zwelo a benefit of doubt. It was for the first time we hear them in Parliament. The issues, allegations around qualifications, allegations around matters of employment in, what is this place? So we don't want to prejudice any outcome. But should anything come out of it as somebody would have brought and broken Rule 25 of the ANC and would have actually brought the party into disrepute, and obviously steps will have to be taken against that. So I am saying on behalf of the ANC, because leadership has got to be tested in terms of its believability. in this period of our party facing existential
We have a
crisis.
trust deficit.
Yes,
massive deficit.
trust deficit. So some of the things we heard there in that parliament about Zwelo was the first time that we heard them as a party.
And the knee-jerk reaction of the Youth League itself.
Well, we don't know because they are close to the action. So we don't know whether there is substance. I've been in touch with Colin. I've asked him questions. He have assured me that there is no wrongdoing on the part of Zwelo. As the Secretary General, I did not ask Zwelo because I don't have to. I asked the president of the Youth League, and then he assured me that there is nothing untoward and there is nothing wrong about Zwelo in terms of his qualifications. And I made it very clear to him that, are you aware that what will this mean if any substance is actually deduced out of the claims by the EFF of anybody for that matter?
It's very hard.
There will be consequences. And then he said, no, I'm very clear and there is no wrongdoing on the part of Zwelo. And that's what he said to me. Yeah.
It'll be very hard to believe that the ANC has stopped being so inward-looking when things like this happen. But again, people have to wait to see what kind of action follows, right?
No,
from the ASG's office.
No.
Am I being unfair?
No, you are being unfair. And you are repeating the old record. You need to acknowledge that the ANC has been firm in relation to its own policies when it comes to wrongdoing. Not lately, for quite some time now. It has never happened in the history of the ANC before we take these decisions that in society we will find ANC say no, the constitution says presumption. The ANC is very clear now.
I think, let me give you credit.
If there is wrongdoing, step aside. But equally, there will be consequences if an ANC member, even if he can be Youth League, is found to be veracity in what is claimed by the EFF and there is substance to it. There will be action and consequences to that.
I'm saying, let me give you credit.
Okay.
I do see step aside absolutely happening. Last take. There was a statement from the ANC about the reconfiguration of the deployment committees and the likes. It goes back to my point earlier where you often find yourself in the middle of these claims around succession and the likes. But part of what had happened there is the consultation thereof. How do you make decisions when a decision like this about redeploying committees and deployees doesn't take into consideration your two deputies? How do you navigate that?
What are you talking about?
Were they part and parcel of that conversation?
Which conversation?
Okay, let me leave.
No, but which conversation?
So the understanding, from my understanding, they didn't feel they were sufficiently consulted as far as the reconfiguration of the deployees was concerned.
Deployees where?
Your NEC deployees.
No, man. We have passed there. There's no such a thing.
But also the statement doesn't... But hold on.
Where does that come from even?
But hold on. Even the statement that follows after, that speaks about murmurs and reports about what is possibly behind the action.
No,
but all of that fits that narrative.
You are spreading dangerous rumors because have any of my deputies questioned the prerogatives of the Secretary General?
You know that?
I deploy the ANC through a consultative process. I'm the Secretary General. So who has ever questioned that in public?
I obviously can't tell you because it wasn't happening in public.
Yeah, but you are quoted there.
But I'm privy to something.
No,
but anyway,
they can't.
It doesn't.
No, they can't. Let me tell you. Let me fill you in. The NEC took a decision, all right? Even those who have talked to you because they are affected. The NEC took a decision right from the inception. We will rotate members to the different provinces. Let me fill you in. Don't listen to the ANC speaking now, all right? Not the third party. The National Executive Committee take a decision that we will rotate members after 2 years.
Yes, we are aware.
That has happened. And then we went to the NEC in January. We said you are going to be rotated, which it was supposed to happen in that NEC. But because there is deficit of NEC meetings, because we're supposed to have an NEC meeting in December where this was supposed to happen, it did not happen. We said it will be put into effect. NEC agreed. That was put into effect. Officials have been consulted. NWC has also been engaged on that. People have been
So
rotated.
you consulted, full stop.
It's not even consultation, is to report, which at the
Or you reported back
yes,
what the decisions were.
yes.
So if
Then
if the aggrieved is about consultation, because
there's
these are two
nobody,
different
there's
things.
nobody who can be aggrieved, because you can never choose the place where you can go. There are many people who had concerns about where they're supposed to go, when they are not supposed to, and they talk to the SG. They understand the protocol, and that is what it is. Members of the NEC who are dissatisfied about where they are deployed, they must understand the right channels and stop running to you. Now, the
Then
ANC,
I wouldn't have a job. Thank you,
yes, the
Bucks.
center is the Secretary General in the ANC who works with the collective of the ANC. If they are unhappy, they must come to those meetings, raise their concerns, and stop running around. I am telling you that decision has been effected. It's a decision of the NEC, rotational to everybody, and then that is it. Now that other people gain feelings out of it, and then they run around, they are ill-disciplined, and they shouldn't do that. And members of the ANC who are disciplined, they know that there's a Secretary General there who's not part-time, who's full-time. Like coming to you now, I came from Lutuli House, dealing with very important issues of the organization every day.
Thank you for taking
So
time out of
I'm
very
full-time there.
important issues of the organization.
I'm full-time, the
Bucks, thanks for
Revolutionary
coming through, eh?
House. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for popping in. Ooh,
Yeah.
sick as I am. Thank you, Bucks.
Thank you, Tshidi, for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.